Hey y'all, and welcome back to my channel. In this tutorial, we're going to be making a double V-split tumbler using some new vinyl from Slidehustle. This is a collab, and I don't design these because I cannot even match or even come close to the kind of talent that Susan at Slidehustle has to create these things. So basically what I do is give her a color palette, or I will send her a screenshot of a flower that I liked and say, here, go off of this. And then she knows my style. She knows I like florals, but she knows that I like the dark greens and grunge effect. And she comes up with these masterpieces. Of course, Dan does all the work of getting these babies printed, all the coloring correct, so that it comes out so nice and vibrant for y'all, and gets it shipped really fast. So I told Susan that I wanted bright pinks. I know I usually don't do pinks, but I wanted a bright pink, a orange, and teal. And like I said, she automatically knows that I like florals and kind of a rustic effect as well. But look at this. Look at the color of these. She just knows that that is my favorite color. So she tied that in, and then she gave it the grungy, rustic effect. We've got wood grain in this with the teal peeking through. Look at that. Aren't these beautiful? And most of you have seen these border sheets that they have had for quite some time. I love the concept of it because it has multiple patterns on one sheet, but it's also broken up into strips to where you could just wrap this on your tumbler and then add some pinstriping in between these to break it up and make it look like you did all of that work and trimmed out all of this vinyl. Or you can trim out the strips and separate it in between strips of glitter or fulls, whatever you'd like to do. So you get multiple colors, multiple patterns of vinyl on one single sheet of vinyl for the same price as a full sheet. So rather than cutting a bunch of these up to get this effect, you're saving money getting these kind of sheets. And this is their most recent invention. I'm so glad that Susan come up with this because it gives you 4 V-split patterns, or in this case, I wanted to mirror it on both ends. So we have 2 patterns, but 4 different sections. And there's no measuring. The only trimming that you have to do is down these lines right here, and you have a perfect triangle for any size tumbler. Now, I have a 24-ounce tumbler. We have a tutorial on this one. This is from my Mother's Day box of last year. And we have a 16-ounce, and then the 32-ounce that we will be using today. So with this vinyl, you can get the same effect, you know, from the bottom to the top if you use a 16-ounce plump. It fits it perfect. I already have some trimmed out here so y'all can see. So you get the perfect wrap and a point. It goes right from the bottom to the top rim on a 16-ounce plump, okay? Now, if we use a 24-ounce, it does fall short a little bit, but it gives you all of this room to add in a decal, add your pinstriping on, and then do a lot more detail. And then if we do a 32-ounce, can do a small piece up top with a nice ombre here, add lots of pinstriping detail, or what we're doing today is do 2 strips, giving you a large center portion, 2 totally different patterns on a tumbler, and a lot of space to design. Okay, so that is a few different ways that you can apply these. You can also do one going this way, and then one crossing over going this way to create a diamond on the back side. And then they kind of crisscross a little bit on the front side, and you can add some nice vinyl detailing or pinstriping on there as well. Just wanted to give you some different ways that you could use these. Now what we are doing, I am going, and listen, this is my third attempt at starting this video, so if I'm getting tongue-tied or long-winded, it's because I am tired and I want to get this cup done. This is attempt number 2. I was actually able to clean this cup off the first time. And where I like the colors, I do not like this glitter at all because it did not fill in the gaps really good. I definitely need to use some sort of mix, or we're actually going to be using a shattered glitter this time. That's going to allow base colors to come through. And then the first one, I used juniper over top of a teal base, and where it was pretty, I just didn't like that there was so much teal going on. So attempt number 3, here we go. Here we go, as soon as I find my paint. Found it. All right, so the 2 colors that we are gonna ombre is Summer Pedicure and Orange Slice by Color Shot. I'm gonna go ahead and spray paint the ombre. We will add on our vinyl, and then we will add on our glitter. All right, now that our spray painting is done, the Color Shot paint just works so good. This is 1 coat. There's a little bit, if this was gonna be a solid color tumbler instead of having glitter on it, or a no glitter cup, oh my gosh, I can't talk. If it wasn't gonna have glitter, then I would have put a 2nd coat on here. But since we're having glitter go over that, we don't need it. But Color Shot does really well as far as coverage goes, and it's been like 5 minutes and it's dry. So although I do have these cut out already for our mess ups, I'm gonna show you how to trim this. Normally it would be, of course, pretty self-explanatory. Just pop it on your trimmer and trim it. But this, if you cut it long ways, it's not going to fit on your standard vinyl trimmer, paper trimmer, whatever it is. So we're going to, actually we're gonna get rid of all of this excess white. We're gonna get rid of that first so that it's an even square. And then we're gonna fold it. I know, folding vinyl makes me cringe too, but we have a good purpose. And we're not gonna be creasing any areas that we're going to use on our cup. It drives me insane when I see people fold their vinyl in half to cut it in a triangle for a V-split. And then you can see that indentation on the cup. Not cute, guys. Okay, so now that we have all of the edges trimmed, I am going, where our cut lines are right to the points, I'm gonna fold this in half, just like this. Make sure it's lined up nice. And then we are going to crease it. And it's going to crease right down those other cut lines. And now we can fit it onto our trimmer. You're gonna put your white line right there in the middle. So we're gonna cut straight down it. And now we can open this up and cut down these lines. It might be off just a hair, but really that's okay because we're going to be adding some vinyl striping or some pin striping on here, and it's going to cover those little edges up. Okay, now that we have all of these cut, let's get started on our vinyl. I'm going to fold a little corner over so that we can stick it to our cup once we have it lined up properly. You want to line this up with the top rim of your tumbler, leaving a little bit of the tumbler exposed, or the stainless exposed at the top. Once you see that they are meeting and lining up, pop this piece down. And then I'm gonna get my squeegee somewhere. Here it is. And we are going to squeegee that vinyl down. Just go back and make sure that it is lining up properly as you go. That way you don't have to pull it up and reposition it too much. As long as you have it straight and you keep your pressure even, you want to keep this as straight as possible. If it starts kind of coming this way, if the vinyl comes down this way a little bit, then put a little bit more pressure up, in the same if it goes the other way. You were off just a hair there. This is removable vinyl. That does not mean it's going to lift up when you epoxy. That just means that it's easy to reposition or remove and pop it back onto the backing if you decide that you want to use a different kind of vinyl, or you know, whatever reason you might be removing it. It will not ruin it. There we go. Look at that. Isn't that nice? So to apply our next piece of vinyl, I want to make sure my point of the vinyl is right in the center of this point where my other vinyl meets. So I'm going to take my ruler, I'm going to stand it straight up and line it up with the center of that. And then I'm just going to make a mark with a pin where the point needs to be. Just like that. Bring y'all back down. All right, and we're going to use a different pattern. So we have two different patterns on this one tumbler. And for this one, again, you're gonna pull this back. Got glitter specks everywhere. So this time, we're gonna line our point up, and then we're also going to line the vinyl up with the bottom of our tumbler, coming up just a hair so that we don't sand any of this off when we sand the bottom rim, okay? Once you have that front part in place, push that exposed piece down. Just make sure that it's straight. Mine wasn't. And then we're going to use our squeegee tool once again. and work our way around the tumbler. Oh my gosh. Oh yeah. I'm not gonna throw things today. I'm not gonna throw things today. Oh my gosh, and there's glitter in behind it. Thank you, Dan and Susan, for always sending me extra because you know that I am going to mess something up. Whew. Do not try me this time. I am going to start throwing hands if it messes up this time. My patience has runneth out. It's really not this hard. And I'm not going to cut any of this out either. So when y'all have these issues, if you have these issues, you don't feel like you're the only one. I most certainly do. Or maybe this is what happens when you don't get to make cups for a while. Okay. Well, would you look at that? Whew, okay. It is too early for all of that drama. All right, now we have our two pieces on. Gosh, look at how pretty that looks. I'm so excited. This one's gonna be it. All right, I'm gonna use my favorite full glue from Southern Belle Glitter, and I am going to freehand this. Make sure that your edges are really stuck down there so glue does not get up underneath them. I rave about this stuff all the time, so you know that when it dries, it's going to be super sticky. so that I can move right in to adding on my epoxy after I seal the glitter in. I don't know if all of that chirping is going to show up in the video, but they're pretty loud. I do not have a bunch, well, I do have a bunch of birds in my house, but we don't typically. We hatched some silky and Sarama eggs, and all of those babies are in a brooder box in the room next to my craft room. Now, if I were using a fine cut glitter, I would be concerned about all of these brush marks that I'm leaving. But this is a shattered glitter, so it's really chunky. So it's not going to show any of these brush marks underneath it. But if you are using a fine cut glitter, you definitely want to tape your edges off so that you can get really smooth coverage. This glitter is going to haunt me. So you can get smooth coverage rather than just kind of slapping it on like we are here. Once we finish our shattered glitter, I'm going to come back on the bottom and use an opal glitter there and a fine cut. That way we won't have that chunky mix at the bottom, and it will be much easier to sand and get that bottom rim smooth. I never like using a chunky glitter on the bottom rim of my cup, unless the whole cup is going to be one solid color. Okay, I'm just getting where it's kind of puddled up a little bit. It'll take that a little bit longer to dry. You really just need a thin coat. Okay, make sure you wash your brush off immediately after finishing using the full glue. Otherwise, the brush is a goner. That glue is super tacky, so it's really hard to get it out of a dry brush. I'm going to use this and go ahead and dry this up. Really fast. Fracture. I am going to go heavy on this, and then I'm going to roll my cup in the glitter so that it really sticks to all of those areas. It's kind of a chaotic glitter. I usually don't use shattered, because I feel like it is a little bit harder to get to lay flat. There's a lot more sanding involved, but for this cup, just look at that. I feel like the rustic vibe that is going on the vinyl is a really, really good match for the shattered glitter. You're still going to be able to see that ombre through it just a bit. Not a whole lot, but just a bit. This is helping us get it nice and flat and also getting all of those cracks filled. After we do the bottom, we will kind of sprinkle some of that in here to fill in any cracks as well. Okay. I'm gonna go brush off this excess glitter and then we'll glitter the bottom. All right, now that we have finished that, let's add some glue onto the bottom and we will glitter the bottom of the tumbler using a finer cut glitter. We're using Alter Ego from PDB Creative Studio. I think this is the closest match to this glitter. And I need to dry it first. Why are you not coming out of there? Make sure we got good even coverage. That got it. And then I'm gonna sprinkle some in here too. And after I do this, I will go through with a chip brush and brush off excess, because if you take a fine glitter over top of any holographic or opal glitter, it is going to look like bubbles on top, because you can see through that opal chunky glitter. And if you do not get the excess brushed off to where it is overlapping, you just want it to go in between. If you don't get it brushed off, it's going to look like teeny tiny little bubbles on top of those larger chunky pieces. I'm gonna go brush off the excess. Actually, I will do that on camera so you can see the difference. Hopefully you'll be able to see it. I'm gonna clean this up first. Okay, let's roll this up and flatten the glitter out, and then we're gonna brush off all of that excess. See if we can zoom in here. There we go. So you can see, like right here, that fine glitter on top of those chunky pieces. If you were to put epoxy over this after just cleaning up the vinyl, then it's going to look just as it is now. Very bubbly, it looks cloudy. But if you come through and you brush all of that off, and this goes for using an opal or any kind of glitter that has like 0.08 cut in it. 0.008 is what it is. Those tiny little specks of glitter are going to sit on top of the large specks, and it's going to appear as bubbles. That's why any of the custom mixes that I do with glitter companies, I do not ever put the 0.008 cuts in them, because unless you brush it off, it's definitely going to look like you have bubbles underneath your epoxy, and all it is the glitter specks. We don't want that. Now, see how much less cloudy it appears? And you don't have those little tiny pieces on top of your big pieces. You can see the beauty of those big pieces shining through. So now when we epoxy over top of this, it's going to go underneath and on top of all of these pretty opal pieces, and we're not going to get that cloudy look or the appearance of bubbles on top of it. I'm going to go outside and spray this twice with Rust-Oleum Matte Clear Coat before we add on our 2 coats of epoxy. Okay, we have 2 coats of epoxy on the tumbler. I sanded in between layers, and when I say I sanded this thing. It took a lot of elbow grease to get this fracture glitter shards to lay down, but I mean, you'll have to see how it shines up because it is pretty beautiful. I love how it did turn out, but it was a lot of work to get that to lay flat. We are going to add on our vinyl striping. I have colorful Pearl Tiffany from Teckwrapcraft. This is some of their newest vinyl. I haven't tried it under epoxy. It has a little bit of a texture to it and a little bit of shift, but look at how good that matches. Matches really good. So we are going to test it out on this cup. Oh. Another great option if you have it would be their green sheets pack. I like these sample packs because you can get them in colors, and it comes with multiple sheets. I don't know if I've used one out of this one or not. I probably have, but it comes with different patterns and kind of the same tone. And these, it's kind of hard to see here on camera, but these would be a good fit for this too. All right. We have put 2 coats of epoxy on this tumbler, sanding on the second layer because this was a super chunky glitter underneath here and I didn't want to take any of it off with my sanding. So I did 2 layers of epoxy and put a ton of elbow grease in behind getting this almost smooth. We're almost there. There's a couple little divots, but it is good enough for our vinyl. For our vinyl, we are using this beautiful new pearl from Teckwrapcraft. And then we're also going to use this one, which does not have a name on it, but I will look them both up for you and have them listed below. They're perfect matches for this vinyl, or for this tumbler. Correction. So let's go ahead and open this one up. I'm going to apply this first. We're going to leave a little bit of a gap, and then we are going to go in with our teal, mint, whatever you want to call that color. Now this has a matte finish, but when you do put this under epoxy, it will shine up. Just like, kind of like the effect of putting a matte finish on a tumbler and then going over it with epoxy. It's just going to shine it right up. I'm going to cut 4 strips of this out. I don't know why it's two-tone there. Maybe it was exposed to a lot of sunlight at some point after it was rolled up. So I'm going to cut this off. Cut 4 of these. I love the feel of this vinyl. I wish it stayed matte under the epoxy because it's so pretty. But if you do like a cold cup or something like that with it, of course, you'll get that effect since you don't have to put epoxy over top of permanent vinyl. But we have to. Okay, there's our 4 strips of that. And then we're going to cut 4 strips of this one. A little bit bigger than we did. Oh, this is so pretty. I'm going to make these a little thick. A little chunky. I'll probably come back for more. I usually do. I usually overdo it with the stripes. Okay. So what did I say we were going to do? We're going to add this on first. Ooh. What does this look like on top of that? No, too much. Too much. I'm going to go right. Why is this see-through? Okay, I got an idea. Let's do this. Okay. Okay, I'm going to put this on first, and then we're going to see what this looks like on top of it. Ooh, okay, we're going with that. And then I'm going to test out a piece of the blue underneath here, just to make sure it's not going to look crazy before we continue. This is obviously some forgiving vinyl too, Teckwrapcraft. It is permanent, but I'm not messing it up by removing it 100 times while I make up my mind. Aren't y'all glad that I edit most of my tutorials and cut all of this nonsense out? And these colors are so trippy. It looks completely different off camera than it does on camera. See if it helps turning this light off. See? Look at how different that looks. To lift this up and move it out of the way so we can finish this. Well, now I've lost all my blue stripes. Found them. think we're starting to get it here. If you are new to my channel, I am sorry. It usually is not this big of a hot mess. Promise you. And thank you for hanging in, if you're still hanging in there and watching the tutorial at this point. It is not this chaotic normally. I'm kind of liking that you can see through this vinyl because I'm able to actually get it straight because I can see the edge of my vinyl underneath it. It's making it a lot easier to get that lined up. Of course, as soon as I said something, It could use more stripes. See? I knew it. I knew I was gonna add more. I'm gonna go further down than that. All right. I think we're gonna leave it at that. So I am really nervous about all of this vinyl lifting. So before I go in with my final layers of epoxy, I'm gonna use some UV resin from Let's Resin and their new resin light to gently seal these in. You don't have to apply any heat to UV resin, so I'm going to be able to seal this in without torching it and not risking my vinyl lifting. Oh, that turned out so pretty. I'm glad that we decided to use, so glad that we used that vinyl. I'm just gonna go all over it. Making sure that all of that vinyl is sealed in, and I do not have a respirator on, but regardless, you still should have a respirator on with UV resin. It doesn't matter if it has a part A or part B, if you're curing it by allowing it to turn, or if you're curing it by a UV lamp, you still need a respirator. It's just been so long since I have been in here. I forgot to throw mine on. Okay, I'm gonna throw this under the UV light, allow it to cure, and then we're gonna come back and add on that final coat of epoxy. All right, guys, make sure when you are using epoxy, again, that you have a respirator on. I will have a couple of those listed down below, and it's been a while since I covered epoxy safety, so I will have that video linked down below for y'all as well. We have our resin, or UV resin, cured, and now we're going to go in with a little extra incorporated turbo fast setting epoxy. This epoxy is very smooth. It does go on a little bit thinner, so it's really nice, especially with cups like this that I have multiple layers. So I don't want my epoxy layers to be too super thick. Just gonna spread that all over. With it being a thinner epoxy, it really helps with self-leveling. So I can kind of go crazy with it. As long as I get the whole cup covered, it is going to level itself out, and I'm not gonna get any ripples in it. The only downfall to a little extra ink epoxy is that it does have a little odor to it, but remember, we're supposed to have our respirator on, so that should not be an issue, not only with this epoxy, but with any epoxy that has an odor. You do not want to be breathing in those fumes, so take it as a nice reminder to wear your respirator. All right, that is done. I cannot wait to show y'all how this looks outside. It is totally different than what it looks like here. And here is our final reveal. I am so happy with the way that this finally turned out. There were some hiccups, but that was absolutely user error because it was one of those days. I can definitely recommend the new V-split vinyl from Slidehustle. Also the border sheets. I know we didn't end up using it here, but it is such a good idea to help you save and then get multiple patterns on one sheet. Of course, all materials that I have used will be listed down below with some coupon codes for you. Don't forget, every Thursday is Ladies' Night in the Slidehustle group, so definitely join there so you can take advantage of those deals as well. Thank you all so much, and we will see you next time.